What's going on there, folks? Good morning. Sunday morning. It is your Earthmaster here on the live stream with an update video on this Sunday, May 22nd, 2022 date, about 9:53 a.m. California time. Latest quake shows some movement with a 2.9 earthquake there around the Nicaragua area. I'm going to start off here on the Big Island, where we've seen a 4.7 earthquake strike into the area around this volcano, kind of kicking up there around the HUALALAI area. A volcano sits just to the east here of this 4.7 that struck earlier this morning. It did shake up into the orange "Did you feel it?" reports. Now, there hasn't been too much earthquake activity in this region of Hawaii in quite a while. I did pull up the informational statement on this volcano from the HVO, which is a Hawaiian Volcano Observatory. They're monitoring this activity. 4.7 earthquake located beneath the island of Hawaii on Saturday, May 29th at 11:50 p.m. That's going to be Hawaii Standard Time. Earthquake was centered about 2 kilometers east-northeast of the region at about a depth of about, looks like 7 miles or so below sea level. A map showing this location is posted. Okay. Moderate shaking was reported. Looks like over the past 25 years, there has only been 2 earthquakes with magnitudes greater than 4.0 beneath the volcano here on the Big Island, including today's event. So not super active in terms of earthquake activity. This event was primarily lateral slip along a subvertical fault and does not appear to be directly related to magmatic activity, but you never know. Aftershocks are likely and some may be felt. According to the HVO Scientist-in-Charge Ken Hon, it looks like the earthquake had no apparent effect on Mauna Loa or Kīlauea Volcano, their ongoing summit eruption. So, there's a bunch of information on this volcano. It is the third most active volcano on the island of Hawaii and typically erupts 2 to 3 times per 1,000 years. Looks like it last erupted in 1801. And more recently had a damaging seismic swarm in 1929 that was probably the result of shallow intrusion of magma. So let's go ahead and check out real quick. Kind of want to see for ourselves the raw data on the GPS system. Trying to get stuff kicking up here. See if we're going to go. Are we going to go GPS? A little on the weird side. I can't get the GPS site to kick up. This is normally a site that I monitor here for the GPS stations. A little odd. Took too long to respawn. Okay, all right, we'll move on past that. We'll check back on that in a minute. But that volcano that I was just kind of explaining to you sits over here to the northeast, just by a few miles. Of course, Mauna Loa here and the Kīlauea Volcano all sit in their respected positions. Looking at the rest of the activity around the Big Island, looks like there was a little aftershock here, a little bit deeper one, a 2.3 to the northwest of where this 4.7 struck there. So I'm going to have to watch that pretty closely. I'm kind of curious, though, to see what the GPS monitoring stations are showing. Little activity up at the summit around the Mauna Loa area. Watching that pretty closely. Southeastern region of the Big Island pretty active as well. All this activity comes after some major adjustment going on. Of course, if you remember, we've seen that quite a bit of swarming up here around the northern end of Greenland, where they did have, looks like another 4.1, but over the last 7 days had a swarm of earthquakes way up here in the 4 and 5 range. Including a 5.8 well north of this region here. That did make for some adjustment and some deep activity around the Fiji Islands area last night during our update. And we did mention a couple areas to watch pretty closely. And that was obviously this area here around the Kermadec Islands and movement up here in Japan. There was very quiet, no activity to report here on the map yesterday. But following this activity, we've seen things really ramp up. Okay, so we did have a 6.1. That was yesterday as well in the afternoon time frame. And more recently, a 6.0 just south of Tokyo. along the trench region here, just south of the Japan Trench, and a little bit of aftershock activity within the vicinity with a 4.3, a little bit closer inland towards the Japan region and closer to Tokyo. Got to watch this area pretty closely. It's a major stress builder, and this area up here, the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench, not all that hasn't really had a whole bunch of earthquake activity as far as over the past few months or so. Not a whole lot of adjustment up here. We've seen some deeper activity into the sea, but very minimal movement here at the surface level as far as earthquake activity goes. So got to watch that region pretty closely. So that makes 2 6-pointers here in the last, actually 3, right? We did have another one down here into the Fiji Islands area. Can't forget this. Now this is getting pretty active here in terms of some deep movement. If you look at these earthquakes here, they're all within that zone inland to the west of the Tonga Trench and the Kermadec Trench. A whole lot of deep earthquake activity, and some of it's getting big, right? So which one occurred first here? I'm pretty certain. Let's go to the 1 day 2.5 and above. It looks like the activity here in the Fiji Islands, all that deeper earthquake movement, making for some further adjustment up along the Pacific Ring of Fire. Notice the 6.3 was much earlier, late last night, I should say, and then we started to see the amplifications here of adjustment along the northwestern portion of the plate and areas along the Philippine plate here to the west. That's also kind of when, following this deep earthquake movement, that's when the Hawaii activity kind of ramped up as well. So things are really starting to roll in terms of earthquake activity and plate adjustment along the Pacific side of the Pacific plate here. It's a whole lot of deep earthquake activity. Every single one of these very close to the 600-kilometer mark here, and more specifically with a swarm of quakes here happening way down there. 599.6 for that 4.5, and the rest there very close to that same depth level in the earthquake department. Got to watch that pretty closely, folks. Some major movement taking place there. Latest quake within this vicinity around Papua New Guinea with a 4.8, that one deep as well. Some further shallow activity here south towards the Coral Sea, it looks like, just east of the Port Moresby area and the Solomon Islands region. Let's see here. West Coast activity. We did see a little bit of movement. This is a 2.5 map and above, although the majority of this earthquake here looks like we did have a 2.9 just off of the San Andreas Fault here, northeast of Salinas. That one pretty shallow along the San Andreas Fault, like I mentioned. Since then, not a whole lot in the 2.5 department, and the majority of this other earthquake activity was from yesterday. But it tends to happen when we see major adjustment here to the west. You guys have been watching that for quite a while. Things tend to taper off along the west coast while we get super active here. The west coast of the United States, over here along the western part of the Pacific Ring of Fire, things tend to do that teeter-totter effect. There was a little bit of activity here kicking up within the last hour in Southern California. Just some microquakes there around the Imperial Fault and the very southern end of the Elsinore region, the Elsinore Fault. Aside from that, the majority of this earthquake activity very light, and overnight it looks like no major swarms to report here around the California region. Some activity into eastern Washington late last night. Well, this is actually Idaho, it looks like. 3.0 in that region. Yellowstone National Park, I don't believe we have too much in terms of earthquake activity, but no doubt those 6-pointers probably popped up there, like looks like they did on a couple of these maps. Seeing all those earthquakes from afar show up on that seismograph station. As far as any localized earthquake activity or adjustment here to Yellowstone following all this movement, it looks kind of relieved, kind of calm. Not a whole lot going on throughout the Yellowstone region in terms of earthquake activity. Same for Texas and Oklahoma and eastern part of the country. Things just kind of mellowing out a little bit here throughout the region. Did see some activity still kicking up here into the Puerto Rico Trench. This looks like most of it died off late last night with a 4.2. This is really starting to ramp up here around the Puerto Rico Trench over the last 7 days or so on both sides of this trench area. But looks like things are quieting down a little bit, which may be a good sign here. Don't want to see any monster quake out there for the Puerto Rico area. Latest quake shows some movement within the swarm region with a 1.7. South America region, not a whole lot to report. There's that effect here. We get that westward plate movement, and they all kind of follow the trend around to the west as far as this area goes, west northwest. But still trying to access that GPS site, but it's offline, folks. Not working. Let's see if I can pick up the HVO's monitoring site. I want to check that out real quick and see what we got. Okie dokie. What's going on here? A lot of times you can monitor. There's not a whole lot of GPS stations around here, it looks like. That's kind of odd. Let's see if we can pick up some of this activity. There's that 4.7 that struck in that region of the volcano there. Showed up pretty nicely. It's a well-defined earthquake there on the seismograph station there from the Big Island. And a little aftershock activity. That's going to be the, what was there? There was a, see what that earthquake was. Stand by for just a second here. 2.3 it looks like. At around 11:22. That's going to be this one, 11:22. There's the big one. Since then, it looks like, at least in the last few hours, no earthquake activity to report. But that is definitely a well-defined earthquake, pretty large one. Let me see if we can get the GPS stations here to kick up a little bit. And been kind of a little odd here. GPS displacements, 2 years. Let's check out this one here. Hopefully you guys can see this on the map side. Looks like you can. Wow, this doesn't even cover any recent time frame. Look at that. Only covers to about 2020. This one covers up to 2021, but hey, that doesn't help us at all. So I'm going to see if I can't still get that other page to key up. I'm not seeing any recent data out there, so that's not good. Definitely not good. Let's check out the far side seismograph station here. I find that kind of odd, not being able to pick up a 4.7 here. Look at that. How did this station not pick up the 4.7? Alright, either way, it is what it is. We'll check it out here a little bit later. We'll keep monitoring it for sure. Here is the tremor map from last night. Pretty well defined Cascadia subduction zone tremor on definitely a broad scale, up from the north all the way down to the south. Things were pretty active yesterday. We'll see what it looks like today in terms of tremor movement. Mount St. Helens area, it's been pretty active yesterday as well with seismic activity. We'll see how that's been affected following all this large scale movement. And let's see, there's the there's some of the 6-pointers that have just recently struck. I believe that's the one from Japan, and some of the S waves coming across the globe with those wiggly lines, wavy lines, so to speak, and a couple other distant earthquakes you can see right there. I believe that's the one of these is the 4.7 from Hawaii. But as far as localized vicinity earthquake activity at Mount St. Helens, definitely, you guys can see it there on the chart. Quite a few earthquakes. That's the 6.3. Hard to tell. There were so many earthquakes there overnight within a short amount of time of each other. They all kind of get mixed in. But definitely a good handful of quakes there overnight. We've seen that yesterday as well at Mount St. Helens. This is the summit area. Nothing being reported here from these folks since the 13th of May. So we know there's activity coming up on 10 days. Maybe they're taking a vacation. Who knows? It can happen, right? But I think they should at least have someone backing up the information here and putting out the data. But it doesn't look like it's happening. Mount Rainier, we'll check this out as well, see what we got for seismograph readings here. In terms of earthquake activity, just had another 4.9 come in here on the earthquake map off the east coast of Japan. We'll check that out here in just a second. This one is, wow, look at those S waves from the most recent 6-pointer and overnight. Those things are definitely traveling throughout the globe, pretty active, kind of shaking the earth like a bell, or kind of making it ring like a bell with these vibrational frequencies. And they can trigger incidents throughout the rest of the globe as far as earthquake activity goes. If you get these large enough. Earthquake activity at Mount Rainier, localized, there is some, although not as active as the Mount St. Helens area. So I figure I'd check those out real quick. Let me check out this station again here. It is offline. So, man, gosh darn it. I really wanted to check it out. But that's all right. Well, I'll get back to it if there's any major movement that I can see. I just had a little bitty spider crawling on me. I already had a pincher bug on me when I was watering the garden. And now a little bitty spider crawling on my arm. I don't know what that means. Hopefully that doesn't bring bad luck today. But, oh goodness, bugs crawling on me. Not good. All right, so there's the... There's a 4.4 kicking up here. That was at 1642. So there's something else coming in from the US or the EMSC model. Let's go ahead and check that out here on the globe. It's a 4.9 right there. See that in the purple circle. We'll go ahead and zoom in to this area. There's that 4.9 that just kicked up here just a few minutes ago. It looks like aftershock activity following that 6-pointer. But still, got to remember this area right here is it's been pretty active, and any large-scale movement that does take place can happen in these swarms like that. Looking at the last 7 days of activity, most of this movement here into the Japan region in the 5 range, last 30 days at 4.5 and above. Including all the swarming that we've seen down here along the Philippine Plate, off the coast of Taiwan, Mariana Trench. We haven't seen a whole lot of adjustment not as far as large-scale movement goes prior to this 6-pointer we've seen this morning within this area. So we did have a little swarm up here around the Kuril-Kamchatka Trench. This area is still, I think, an area to watch potentially for some large-scale movement, even with that 6-pointer. In that region, getting pretty active. So adding a 4.9 earthquake to that map, which the USGS will get to eventually. Yeah, right now, just pretty well centered and obviously taking a whole lot of stress up here in this region following that deep earthquake activity in Fiji. Got to watch these regions pretty closely. So as a whole, folks, got to remember this whole Pacific Plate kind of moves off here. Subduction zone moves off to the west-northwest position and adds further stress. I think with this large-scale deep adjustment, that's ultimately what we've seen up here. And that kind of goes hand in hand with the timestamps here. Seen all that deeper activity first, and then some major adjustment up here to the northwest. Kind of makes sense there with that adjustment. Let's see if we got anything else going on the Big Island. I'll keep an eye on it, folks. I do have one. I think I have a station monitoring the activity in Hawaii, as far as a live seismograph station. What I'm going to do though is kick up probably another one towards the western portion of the Big Island, and see if we can't monitor that activity over there, because things are getting very interesting here in terms of activity. Looking at the Earthquakes Canada map, not a whole lot going on. This earthquake here from yesterday at 2.7 around the Ontario area. Solar weather events. Let's go ahead and check them out. Looks like kind of just mellow. Mellow is the key word today, I guess, right? Well, at least maybe not in earthquakes, but solar weather, yes, kind of steady as she goes across the board. Not a whole lot of flaring going on from the sunspots currently. These guys predicting, well, 5% chance for an X flare, 40% chance for an M, 99% chance for a C flare. Looking at the specific dynamics of these polarities, there is some intermixing in there. And a little bit here from 3017. We got some further sunspots developing around the eastern limb. And we'll just see how this goes, let it play out. No major storming to report here in the 3-day forecast. No major coronal holes, and no major CMEs have been produced that would elevate that forecast. So right now, just kind of mellow. You know, you guys notice all that earthquake activity happening overnight with very minimal activity. Yes, we do have sunspots, but none of it really is affecting Earth at the moment in terms of flaring or CME activity. So we'll see. Like I said, we'll see how this plays out throughout the day today. All right, guys, I'm going to get out of here and get a little bit more caffeine in my system. I've been trying to drink a lot of caffeine because this cold or whatever I have is kind of wearing me down. I know it's not probably the best. It's kind of counterproductive, right? But I don't know. I'm a coffee and caffeine person. I gotta have my caffeine regardless. That's probably not the best thing for me, but it is what it is. We all got bad habits we gotta kick once in a while. Also, I think I'm feeling a little bit of kind of like I've been run over by a train from yesterday's rides there at the fair. I rode on quite a few of them there with Missy Mimi's. She's crazy, by the way. One of the rides there had a whole bunch of G-forces, and definitely didn't agree with my stomach all that well. So I think I'm feeling that today. Just it's fun, but I'm not used to it like I was when I was 18 or 19. So yeah, that's enough for me for 1 year. Not going back today. I'll go back next year maybe. We'll see. Alright, guys, I am going to jump out of here. Like I say, it's pretty active. I just got to be prepared and watch it pretty closely. So have a good day, folks. We will chat you a little bit later tonight with the update. Stay safe.